Most people think the miracle in this story was the fish. But that's not actually the most important part, because the real miracle happened inside a fisherman named Peter. On a quiet morning by the Sea of Galilee, after the worst fishing night of his life, Peter met a man who asked him to try something impossible. And when he did, everything changed. Not just for Peter, but for the entire world.
But to understand why that morning mattered, we need to go back to the beginning.
The night had been long. The Sea of Galilee was calm, almost silent, but that silence brought no comfort to the fishermen who had spent the entire night working on its waters. For hours they had thrown their nets again and again, hoping to feel the familiar weight of fish pulling against the ropes. Fishing was their life. Their hands knew every movement by memory, the way a net should open in the air before touching the water, the patience required to wait in the dark, the quiet understanding between men who had spent years working together under the same stars. But that night, something was different. Nothing had been caught. Simon Peter sat in the boat, his shoulders heavy with exhaustion. His arms ached from the repeated motion of throwing and pulling the nets. The cold air of the early morning clung to his skin as the first pale light of dawn slowly appeared on the horizon. He had experienced difficult nights before, but there are moments in life when exhaustion is not only physical, it is deeper than that. It is the feeling of working, struggling, trying, and seeing no result. All night long, he had cast the net into the dark waters, and every time it came back the same way, empty, again and again. The other fishermen nearby had begun returning to the shore as well. Their boats moved slowly across the quiet water, carrying men who knew that the night had given them nothing. When a fishing night ended like that, there was only one thing left to do: return, wash the nets, repair what was broken, and hope that the next night would be better. This was the life of a fisherman in Galilee. Hard work, uncertainty, and patience. When Peter's boat finally reached the shore, the sky was beginning to glow with the warm colors of morning. The small village nearby was slowly waking up. Smoke from early fires rose into the air as people prepared for another ordinary day. Peter stepped out of the boat and began washing the nets. The ropes were rough in his hands as he worked, carefully removing dirt and weeds from the threads. If the nets were not cleaned properly, they could rot or tear during the next fishing trip. But as he worked, something unusual caught his attention. A crowd was gathering along the shore. People were arriving from different directions, walking quickly toward a man who stood near the water. Some spoke excitedly among themselves. Others simply stood still, listening carefully. Peter raised his eyes and looked more closely. He had heard rumors about this man before. Stories traveled quickly through small towns like those around the Sea of Galilee. People said there was a teacher traveling through the region, a man who spoke about God in a way that felt different from the religious leaders they were used to hearing. Some said his words carried a strange authority. Others whispered about things that were harder to explain. They said people were being healed. They said lives were changing. Peter had not paid much attention to those stories before. Rumors had a way of growing larger each time they were repeated, but something about this moment made him curious. The man spoke calmly, yet the people pressed closer and closer to hear him. There was no stage, no grand platform, just a teacher standing near the edge of the water. Then something unexpected happened. The man walked directly toward Peter's boat. Without hesitation, he stepped into it. Peter looked at him with surprise. Boats were not public places. They were tools of work, and fishermen did not usually appreciate strangers climbing into them without permission. Yet this man did not seem arrogant. There was no sense of pride in him. His presence carried something different, something calm, something steady. Then he spoke. He asked Peter to push the boat a little farther away from the shore so he could speak to the crowd. Peter hesitated. He was tired. His body wanted rest more than anything else. But something in the man's voice made it difficult to refuse. So Peter pushed the boat gently back into the water. The boat drifted a short distance from the shore, rocking softly on the small waves. From there, the man began to teach. And Peter listened. The teacher spoke about the kingdom of God, but not in the way most religious leaders did. There was no cold formality in his words. No complicated debates meant to impress scholars. He spoke with warmth. He spoke with clarity. He spoke about God as if he truly knew him, about mercy, about forgiveness, about a kingdom that was not built with armies or power, but with transformed hearts. Peter did not understand everything he heard that morning, but something about those words held his attention. When the man finished speaking, the crowd slowly began to disperse. But before Peter could guide the boat back to shore, the teacher turned toward him. Their eyes met, and then the man said something that sounded completely unreasonable. He told Peter to go out deeper into the water and to let the nets down again. Peter stared at him. For a moment, he almost laughed. Anyone who had spent even a single night fishing on the Sea of Galilee knew something important. Fish were caught at night. During the day, they moved into deeper water where nets could not easily reach them. And besides that, Peter had already tried all night. He had done everything a fisherman knew how to do, and the result had been nothing. Empty nets. Part of Peter wanted to explain this, to politely tell the teacher that fishing did not work that way, but instead he answered with quiet honesty. He told him that they had worked hard all night and had caught nothing. Then he paused and added something unexpected. But because you say so, I will let the nets down again. Peter lifted the heavy net and threw it into the water once more. For a few seconds, nothing happened. The net sank slowly beneath the surface. The water moved gently around the boat. Then suddenly, the rope tightened. Peter felt a powerful pull in his hands. At first, he thought the net had caught on a rock, but the movement was alive, strong. The net began to shake violently beneath the water. Fish, hundreds of them, maybe more. Peter tried to pull the net up, but the weight was overwhelming. The ropes strained under the pressure as the net filled beyond anything he had ever seen before. He shouted to the other fishermen nearby. The other boats rushed toward him. Together, they began hauling the nets into the boats. Fish spilled everywhere, silver bodies flashing in the morning light. The catch was so enormous that both boats began sinking lower into the water. The fishermen looked at each other in disbelief. Just hours before, the sea had given them nothing. Now it was giving them more than they could carry. Peter stood there, breathing heavily, staring at the impossible catch surrounding him. Then slowly, he turned and looked at the man in the boat. In that moment, Peter understood something that made his heart tremble. This was not luck. This was not coincidence. Something far greater had just happened. Peter fell to his knees in front of him, and instead of celebrating the miracle, he said something unexpected. He told the man to go away from him, not because he was angry, not because he was afraid of the fish, but because suddenly Peter felt something very different. He felt unworthy. For the first time, he realized that the man standing before him was not just a teacher. There was something holy about him, something that revealed the truth inside Peter's own heart. I am a sinful man, he said. The other fishermen were just as shocked. James, John, all of them stared at the overflowing boats, struggling to understand what they had just witnessed. Then the man spoke again. His voice was calm, steady. He told Peter something that would change his life forever. Do not be afraid. And then he said words that would echo through history. From now on, you will fish for people. Peter did not fully understand what that meant yet, but he knew one thing. Nothing in his life would ever be the same again, because that morning, on the quiet waters of Galilee, a fisherman had just met the man who would change the world. Peter had just left everything behind, but he had no idea what he was about to witness, because soon, Jesus would face the religious leaders of Israel, and nothing would ever be the same again. Pantala Final, Episode 3. The day Jesus broke the religious rules.